sizes get bigger, and also the number of droppers increase. Okay, because obviously on the outside the radius means that it's covering a much bigger area. So to give you an idea, the outside 61-meter span is covering about 50.7 of a hectare. So the outside span will have a lot more droppers and a much bigger nozzle aperture. We talk about nozzle aperture as opposed to an individual nozzle. We talk about the aperture of the span. So the nozzles get bigger and the frequency of the droppers gets bigger.
Which are drought tolerant, in other words, which are resilient to drought. These can be in the form of, say, the different maize varieties which are tolerant, or even just crops like investing in crops like sorghum, pigeon pea, green grams, cowpeas. Those are very resilient when it comes to drought. But still with the maize, we know there are a number of institutions, including the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center, CIMMYT, and even the national programs that have developed drought-tolerant maize varieties. And those are the varieties one would advocate for these seed companies to go in for, produce seed, and then eventually avail seed of those varieties to the smallholder farmers. Number two, this is the time now also for the seed companies to begin investing in irrigation. Mother Nature has been so kind enough all these years, but we have abused that kind of gesture by destroying the natural environment, the trees, the forests, and that's why you're having frequent droughts. So I think this is the time for the seed companies also to begin investing in irrigation to ensure that whatever they are producing is either being supplemented by irrigation when drought sets in, or even entirely producing that crop of seed under irrigation. And by so doing, they'll be assured of having a crop at the end of the season. So those are the two ways I can foresee as one way of overcoming drought, either by investing in drought-tolerant varieties or varieties which are resilient to drought, and two, by producing seed or crops under irrigation. Many countries have been affected, but the most hit are the countries in Southern Africa, like Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. Yeah, their drought is really causing a lot of havoc, and it has led to food shortage and starvations in some pockets of the country.
And in Kenya, what would you say about the drought?
Yeah, drought is also affecting, as you've heard, in areas like Kilifi in the coast. Those are also Samburu. Those are also affected by drought. And I think this is the time to rescue those farmers with the food aid, but at the same time also availing the farmers with the drought-tolerant seed of the drought-tolerant varieties, so that when rains begin, they're able to grow those varieties.
The challenge we had in Malawi last year was that on the onset of the rains, it's like what is happening around here. We had delayed rains, especially in the southern part of the country. They came late, and then when they came, they tail off finished earlier than anticipated. So there was a drop-off on the crop. And the same in the central region and the northern region, where the rains were at least we had a Congo air mass coming into Malawi. We had good rains at some time, but the drop-off was also too early, and we ended up having the crop depressed yield. Think of about over 50 to 60%. As I'm talking now, most Malawians, about 8 million Malawians, have no food. And what the government is doing at the moment is to procure maize being imported from Zambia, and also making sure that the little that was in the country is procured into the grain markets, so that they will be able to release at the time of need, like this month to January, February, which is the critical months for the country. They had also gone into irrigation as a mitigation. Some irrigation schemes were given to a task to grow maize, like the Ilovo, which is the sugar growing area. They had to put on maize for sake of mitigation. There has been a massive operations to mitigate against the people dying of hunger.
And what do you think the drought-resistant seeds will do to this? Are you coming to Kenya and seeing this happening?
In fact, if we have harvested a lot of maize, it's because Malawi has adopted some drought-tolerant maize which are introduced through the AGRA program. Peacock Seeds is one of them, and many other small seed companies that are being supported by AGRA, and they got the drought-tolerant maize varieties. That's where the rescue came from. Otherwise, Malawi would have been hit even harder than what it has been. And what it has done also is it has created a huge awareness of the drought-tolerant maize varieties for the farmers. Now the demand for our drought-tolerant maize varieties in the country is very high, such that we cannot meet the demand at the moment. And there's a need to invest into the high production of the drought-tolerant maize varieties.
And what's the gain from this visit?
From this visit, I've learned a lot. I think looking at the investment into irrigation facilities, especially for the seed production, is a wise decision that all the seed companies, small seed companies, we have to make. Because if a seed company is hit by drought, just like a farmer, then you are talking about the high value seed, which we call the parental seed, getting wiped out. And once you wipe out parental seed, then the whole seed concept is finished, because it hangs around having parental seed, which is pure lines. That's a big lesson for me. And then we are looking at production, like this big farm, the way they are producing, and staggering all the whole things. I think that's a big lesson to us, and many other lessons that we are learning on investing into mitigation measures.
Packet, and then you can go and show your mum. Tell mum you've harvested some seeds.